Welcome to TechSource.tv. My name's Dan, and today we have with us a Lian A75 case. Today this is the review edition of the TechSource, so we'll be going through our full battery of amazing detailedness of reviewing of this case. Not these quick over unboxing videos that give you really no valuable information. So today we're reviewing the Lian A75 full tower aluminum chassis. So welcome to the front of the Lian A75 chassis. Now, as you can see, it's a full tower chassis. It's absolutely been like giant. So let's go over some of the front features and the side features. There's not really much to talk about. It's a very plain and, mature-looking case would be the best way to put it. You know, it's not in your face like a Phantom or some other cases, like any of the half-series cases. It's very, clean, modern-looking. If you're into that kind of thing. For me, this would be a nice case too, but later in the review, I'll tell you why this case doesn't fit me. But if you are looking for a case that looks like this, it looks awesome. So let's go over some of the exterior styling. As you can see in the front, we got a nice black full exterior with brushed aluminum trim, which is typical to see from Lian and really any aluminum case. Next, we have two DVD drive bays, which is pretty typical for these cases, and you know what? I think two DVD drive bays is more than enough. As well as we have the top bay, comes with a nice hideaway, so it actually hides your bay and the door flips out, which is really nice. Actually every Lian case I've used now has those, which is really good. And as well as you got the second one with a regular blank cover, so pretty cool. And as well as on the top and the front of the case, we also have our hard drive activity LEDs, and we have our huge front intake here, which is really awesome. So look at that. That's huge. And behind that front intake, you got three 140 millimeter fans, and each one of them have their own dust filter, and I'll show you that in a second. And on to the bottom, we have a Lian logo. Now, on the side of the case, we have, you can't see it, but right here, you have two spots where 240 millimeter fans can be installed. They got these awesome blanking plates that actually pretty much look like there's no fans on the side. So you can put them in. Now, the case doesn't include any dust filters for them or fan grills, so you're going to have to provide that yourself. I would like to see those be included because for the top fans, they did include dust filters for them, or a dust filter-like fan grill thing. Anyways, I'm going to show you how you take off the front panel and how you can access, any things in the front, and you can put drives in. So check this out. It's super easy. And that's it. It just removes like that. You got your front panel off. It's super light. It's made out of aluminum, which is awesome, just like the rest of the case. And then you can see the 340 millimeter fans. Dust filters work really good, actually. There's already a bit of dust in them because my house is super dusty, which really sucks. But it makes it easy to clean your dust filters because you can clean them right from there. Or if you take off the side panel, you can take the fan right out and do a full clean. But if you need to do a quick clean, there you go. All right, guys, so here's the back of the Lian A75. And as you can see, again, it really shows its size. At the top of the case, we got this vent up here, and we got a 120 millimeter fan. And it's got a nice, very open fan grill, so very little restriction, which is good. So it's going to keep down with noise and get lots of air out. I really like to see that style of grills. And as well as if you want, you just remove it, and then you have like total airflow and no restriction at all, which is really good. If you got like a rad there, you want very little restriction. Above the fan, we got, two water cooling holes there for the tubes to pass through if you just so decide to have an external rad. Now, the one thing I'm going to note about these, let me get a screwdriver. Let me show you this. It's hard plastic, and it's like cheap hard plastic. On a $200 case, I'd expect better. I'm not very impressed with that. As well as your aisle shield plate gets installed here. And then we have our 11 PCI expansion slots, which is really awesome. So you got lots of room to put whatever you want in your case. So that's really great. And then as well as you got some extra ventilation here. And as I said, here is our 240 millimeter fans can go there. And the spacing set up perfectly for 280 millimeter rad. So if you got an NZXT Kraken or now the new H110 from Corsair, you can put that there. So that's pretty cool. Or if you're doing a full custom water loop, and you can put that there. And as well as you have your standard ATX power supply goes in the bottom. It's got this really cool bracket. You can just install the power supply on the bracket and then slide it in. So that's really awesome. As well as the case includes 4 thumb screws, so 2 down here and then 2 up here. So as you can see there, there's the 2. And they got little rubber bushings on there so they don't scratch the paint or scratch the finish on the case, which is actually a really nice touch, and I really like that. And you got the 2 grab handles to pull on the sides. So as you guys can see, this is the top of the case. We have a... we took out the blanking plates for the top, and we put in 220mm fans. That aren't included. They're optional. And they got these pretty cool vents, as you can see here. So let me just zoom in. We got these Lian fans. They're pretty quiet. They work really good, and I like them. Now, you might be note that I am missing a screw. That's because my rad, the H100 rad I have in here, is actually kind of bent and messed up. It's been really beat over the year I've had it. So, oh well. It's held in with, 7 out of the 8 screws, so it still holds in. It works pretty good, so whatever. So I got the air exhausting at the top. It's pretty quiet because I got really quiet fans. I took out the stock fans, which is, this whole build is really silent. I'm going to show you that, guys, in a bit. So moving on along the top of the case, as you can see, it's pretty plain. There's not much. One comment I'd like to make, though, is they could have had more options for fans. Like 140mm or 120, like more 120s or more 140s. Like there's no option for 140s. For a case this wide and a case this big, we should have options for 140s. I would really like to see that, just to go with, the front of the case because it's got so many 140s. As well as I would like to see... a 3x120 rad available. You can only do a 2x120 rad. I'm sorry, in a case this size, you should be able to do a 360 rad or a 3x140 rad. You should be able to do these massive rads in a case this size. That's just not. There's no excuse for it. I know I really find that the water cooling support in this case is really lacking, especially for something this size. But for modders, they'll love it because there's lots of areas to mod this case. As well, on the front of the case, we have our power button and our reset button. As long as behind there is we have our USB ports. Slide that open, uncovers 2 USB 2s, 2 USB 3.0 ports. It's got a USB 3 internal header, so not a loop around back. We got microphone and headphone and HD audio, or it has a plug for 97 AC if you prefer. One comment I want to make is the power button. Feels a bit cheap. Not a big fan of that. Be nice to have a bit better tactile feedback, or it's a bit stiffer. Spring's a bit weak in that, so not too impressed with that. Besides that, though, the USB ports are great, but if you do plan on putting this on top of your desk, they're going to be hard to get to, along with the power buttons. So if you do plan on having this case, you're probably going to want to put it on the floor. It would be the easiest way to reach the power button and USB ports. So we're just going to do a small sound test. So the only extra fans we've added is the video card fan and the 2 top external fans, which are 8 Lian fans. They spin pretty slow at 1800 RPM. Not 1800 RPM, I think I did like 800 RPM actually. So they're really quiet. You shouldn't hear them. As well as the front fans are relatively quiet. So the case actually has 3 intake fans that push air this way, and there's 1 exhaust fan that it comes with, and it ports air at the back. But since we added 2 extra fans, we have air coming out the top as well. So have a listen, and you see how quiet it is. And I'm going to turn it off. There you have it. It's a pretty silent case. So let's go look in the interior of the case. We're going to start with the hard drives and DVD drive bays, and we'll work our way around. So first things first, we got the first 5 1/4 inch drive bay is toolless. So here, I'll show you it. So you push on this little thing here, this little tab, it pulls it out, and then it goes back in. It secures your drive, and it does a pretty good job. Now, we're not using a DVD drive, but I put one in, and yeah, it does an alright job. It's not like you're, banging your hard drive, your DVD drive around anyways. Now, the second one isn't toolless, as you can see. They should have just done both. I don't know why they didn't. And as well as that part's plastic, but it's made of a pretty good one, so I don't think it's going to be breaking anytime soon. Now, moving on down, we got our 12 hard drive bays, which is pretty ridiculous, I would say. And you can put an SSD on three of the levels. So you can only put 3 SSDs in this case. Now, you probably could sneak some behind the motherboard tray because there's enough room there. So as you can see, the hard drive, the SSD, my mistake, just kind of slides in here. I'll show you pretty quickly. So you put it in, put the screws on the bottom of it, put it in place, and put it in like that. Now the problem about that is it kind of offsets it, and they should have set it back a bit, so it makes it hard for cables to plug in, so you can't use any angled cables on the SSD, especially powered ones, which may make it a bit tricky when installing your SSD. Now for hard drives, it's a breeze, and I really love this system. You install the screws on the side of your drive with the rubber grommets, so you got anti-vibration, and it's secure, and on top of that, it's got a locking mechanism, so let me show you that pretty quickly too. You loosen the 2 screws, slide this up. You can tighten one of the screws to hold it up. You can slide your drive bay out and put it back in. And then push that back down. And you're all good. So that's super easy. That's awesome. I love it. So that's a really great system, and I really like it. Downside of this hard drive system is not removable. Can be if you get your drill out and start punching out the rivets, and then put some screws in place. So I'd love to see if Lian Li did put instead a modular drive bay system. So many cases of this size and this price nowadays have that. I would love to see that. And as well as there's no option for any fans to be installed on the opposite side of the hard drive case to help with airflow. But airflow wasn't really a concern because you can put side fans on the case, and as well, there we go, fixing lighting. And as well, so that blows air right on your motherboard if you choose to do that. But the case doesn't include dust filters, so you're going to have to provide your own, as I said before. Now, we got this. Now, you might be wondering, what the heck is this giant bar in the center of the case? It's kind of like a giant eyesore almost. Well, that actually helps as rigidity to the case, and secondly, as a video card bracket. So as you can see here, check out our GTX 480. It's being held in with not only the side of the case, with the 2 screws that hold in your 2 PCI brackets, the PCI bracket itself, but the retention bar helps relieve pressure on the case and your PCI slot. And as well as, it helps out when you're moving your case and, say you're going to a LAN party, you don't want your video card to all of a sudden, because it's so heavy, break the PCI slot. And trust me, it happens in shipping sometimes too when pre-built systems come. So that's pretty nuts. Especially with these bigger video cards that come triple slot or whatever, you know what I mean? Like if you got like a massive like Mars card or something like that, or an Ares 2 now, you're going to probably want something to hold that video card in. Because video cards are getting pretty heavy now with copper coolers and copper fins. And, well, as you can see, our GTX 40 has bloody heat pipes on it. I absolutely love this cooler because of that. It looks awesome. So anyways, besides that, I'm getting distracted. Building in the case was actually relatively easy. Cable management, not too bad. It could be better, but it's good. And, putting your motherboard in and putting everything in was good. It's got these cool thumb screw motherboard screws, which is kind of neat. It includes. I kind of like them. It made it really easy to install it. Installing all your, all that was really easy. Putting your H100 in was good because it has a decent CPU cutout. So any modern motherboard's not really going to have issues with the CPU cutout. Some older motherboards with higher CPU placement may have an issue because the cutout's not that big. I'll show you that in a minute. Now, on the front of the case, on this side of the case for cable management, as you can see, we ran our 24-pin in front of the motherboard tray. Reason being, the Antec 1200 watt doesn't have a long enough cable to actually go around back because, well, the placement of the rubber grommets, as you can see, isn't really that great. We got one up here, which is kind of like, well, there is no 24-pin there, and there's no 24-pin here. Our PCI, like our SATA cables around here, and there's nothing about here, maybe our USB 3, and, 24 pins up here. So it's kind of in the middle. There's nowhere really to put it. So maybe if they put bigger ones or longer ones, or maybe a few, and put them closer together, that would be better. Or maybe if they put ones closer to the motherboard, because they're actually all set up for, an XL ATX or an HP ATX motherboard. So, yeah, the rubber grommet system's like, it seems a bit of an afterthought, and the actual rubber grommets themselves is kind of a bit low quality. They do fall out. They fell out quite a bit, and we've found ourselves putting them back in a lot. But besides that, though, the wires clean up really good. So, if you just got to work it. It wasn't really that much work. Dave and myself, we built the entire case and did all the cable management, and, to boot up from ripping, having all the parts on the table. We did it in about an hour, so that wasn't too bad. The build time's actually not that bad. It was pretty easy. So it's just a little minor thing. So overall, though, it looks really good, and it holds a massive 1200 watt power supply. As you can see, this is Antec 1200 watt. Is above standard length, so it's not bad. So there you go, guys. So this is the internals of the case. It's really nice. It's clean, You know, it's got a nice black interior, which is good too, because, you know, sometimes these aluminum cases don't have black interiors. So it's nice to see a full black case, because I do know some other aluminum cases have silver interiors, which, you know, kind of looks a little cheap. So the black is a nice touch as well. The back of the case. So as you can see here, we have, you know, all our cables kind of just randomly ran. Well, not really. There's a method to my madness, and that madness is try to keep things as flat as possible, really. Now we got a CPU cutout on this computer here. No removable motherboard tray, which is pretty normal nowadays. But you know, I'd like to see the CPU cutout a bit bigger. I've seen some other different motherboards put on these from different reviewers, and they had issues with theirs. Now we have a Z77 motherboard from MSI. It doesn't have an issue at all, which is great. But I'm just wondering about some of the Intel guys. I mean, not Intel, but AMD guys, because their CPU bracket's a bit taller. It might have some issues. So I'd like to see something a bit bigger that just goes a little bit more. But anyways, we got on the top of the case, we got some really nice CPU cutout holes there, which is really good. And we ran our, you know, our premium sleeved cable extensions for most of the cables, except for I lost my 24-pin one. I would have ran the 24-pin back here as well. As you can see, it holds all the cables pretty nicely, but there's nowhere, you might be noticing, there's nowhere to zip tie any of the cables down besides that bar. That's it. There's nowhere to do it. So that just made it really difficult when it came to cable management. I really had to think it out and, you know, just use whatever we had available to us. And I found that was kind of just like a, why? Why didn't they put it? Like even include like some double-sided tape ones that you can hook on zip ties to, anything, but there was nothing included, which was a bit of a letdown. Moving on down to the basement of the case, as you can see, that's where we ran some of them. And all the cables for the fans that were included in the case are black with... where the heck are the... Oh, and then there's the black PWM to 3-pin connectors. Not PWM, but Molex to 3-pin connectors. So that's really good there. So that makes it super easy, and you got that channel there to where you run all your cables. And, yeah, so that's pretty much it. So let's do our patented... well, not really patented, but our TechSource test of putting on the side panel with everything on the case. So how difficult really it is. So let me give it a shot. Wish me luck. Nope. That it? And that's on. So that, a little bit of work. I had to like lay my arm across the whole bottom and a bit on the top to get it on. The side panels in this case are a bit tricky, but it does work, you know, with considering, like, we don't have a crazy system in here, pretty fairly basic, but with the typical ATX build, 2 hard drives, video card, poor man's water cooling solution, all that jazz, it works. Cleans up nice, but still, I'd like to see it somewhere to tie down the cables. It would have made it easier. So there you guys go. The entire A75. It's a pretty nice case. You know, building in it was really easy. Dave and myself, we didn't really have any troubles. Sometimes the rubber grommets fell out, but overall, it's pretty good. You know, fan support is really awesome. You got lots of fans, and it's really quiet. You know, as I showed you, it's a really silent case, which is good. You know, you want that, you know, from a bigger tower. And for me, and especially for a mature-looking case, you don't want this thing screaming like a banshee. You want it to be a quiet case. And it will work great as a server case because you can do full ATX, you can do XL ATX, you can do HP ATX, which is, you know, the motherboard form factor for like the EVGA SR2 and now the SRX. Or SR3 really. And that's really awesome. So you can hold massive motherboards, you can hold pretty much any hardware you want. It would work great as, you know, a server case. You know, some of the you know, the kind of things, you know, I'd say, you know, the imperfections of the case are that, you know, there could have been better fan support or better water cooling support for that matter, and better cable management. You know, behind the motherboard tray, we could have seen, you know, some cable tie downs, even something that you can stick on with double-sided tape would just been the easiest thing for them to do. So they wouldn't require tooling to make, you know, any loops or any punch-outs for, you know, putting zip ties on. That would have been really nice to see. As well as maybe making more support for more, you know, rubber grommets and putting them in better locations. They're not in the optimal location, but they do work. They're better than a lot of other aluminum cases I've worked with. As well as with radiator support, you know, only a 2x120 rad on the top and a 280 rad at the side, so a 2x140. You can't do a 3x140 in the front unless you take the hard drive cage out, which is great for modders. And as well as there could have been room on the bottom to put a single 120 millimeter or 140 millimeter fan, but they didn't do that. And on the top, they could have done a 3x120 or 3x140 rad, or they could have at least put support for 140 millimeter fans. There's no support for that at all. So yeah, there's things like that I'd like to see. But you know, like the VGA retention bracket's really cool. I love how you can hold so many, like a whole bunch of hard drives in here. Tons of different motherboard support. It holds lots of hardware, so it's great for that. And cooling overall is still really cool, good, but I'd like it to be better. It could be better. But if you're a modder and you're someone that's not afraid to cut up your $200 aluminum chassis, go for it. This case would be absolutely perfect for you, because you could cut out the bottom, add a fan, take out the hard drive cage, put a massive rad, and then like hide SSDs behind the back with double-sided tape. Cut up the top and freaking put like a giant 3x140 millimeter radiator at the top. Just cut it up. Go for it. You know, this is a case that I feel that it's just begging for someone to cut it up, make something crazy with it, and do some psycho water cooling in it. It has the room. It's like this giant block. Just go for it. There's a huge canvas of things you can do for it. And this is something that I see this case doing. The case comes in around $200, and for pricing and shipping to my house from, you know, the local computer stores is about $29, so that's not too bad. Compared to its counterparts, which are generally about $50 to ship, and so you're saving a bit of money because it's aluminum, so it's lighter. Overall, build quality is really good. As you know, with any typical Lian case, it's, you know, there's no sharp edges. Everything's really rounded nicely. It's really good aluminum, and as typical brushed aluminum, you want to be careful with it. It loves fingerprints, and it loves to scratch very easily. Now, we didn't scratch it at all. We were very careful with it, but throughout this entire filming of the video, I'm kind of constantly sitting there with microfiber cloth and Windex. I'm like, clean the damn thing every time I moved it. So that's a bit of a nuisance. But once you set up your PC, all you're doing is hitting the power button and you're going. So anyways. But there you guys go. The A75, it's a pretty good case, and it's got its brother with the A76. If you don't want the open front, you want a door, you can get a door with it. And yeah. So for about $200 for a full tower case, I'd say that's not that bad, especially an aluminum one. So if you're looking for an aluminum case that holds tons of hard drives and HP ATX, this is the case for you. And if you want a modder case, then this is one I'd recommend for modding. It looks like a good contender for a modder. But there you guys go, the A75. Let me know what you guys think. My feelings are kind of mixed. I'm really not sure. I like it, but then there's things I don't like about it. So I see this car as kind of I see this case as more as like an Italian car, where it's kind of like an old Alpha, where it's like, it's awesome in its own little way, but then it's got its own little flaws. But you look over those flaws because it's such an awesome case, because it's like it looks really sweet. So, and that's how I see this case. But let me know how you guys think about this case. And yeah, so we'll see you guys next time at techsource.tv. Leave your comments below about your opinion on this case, and all your, you know, usual constructive criticism and all that jazz. We'll take that into consideration. So see you guys next time at techsource.tv. My name's Dan, signing out.